Fascists, historically, are very interesting to research because they're so paradoxical and so ridiculous. Like, being an outsider looking at a fascist society, going, well, obviously that's crumbling because it's built on sand. Like, one of the things they do is, I call it the superior victim mentality, where they are simultaneously the best, the strongest nation, the most superior minds and superior beings, but they're the victims, so that they're justified in their horrific crimes. And they hate art. Oh, they despise art. Because art, comedy is an art. It's the ultimate questioner of authority, which fascism relies on. And intellectualism. They hate intellectualism, because smart people make them feel small. But the funniest thing about fascism, and because it's the reason it always fails, is that it rewards loyalty over competence. Fascist leaders surround themselves with sycophants, to the point that they become actually delusional because there's no one who actually knows what they're talking about saying, this is a terrible idea. It always falls apart because it's an ideology that is inherently flawed and cannot function once it's run out of people to blame. Because fascist governments will never admit fault. They can't. They've always got to blame someone else. Essentially, it's a very petulant, childish cult. Yeah. Don't be a fascist.
So I've been thinking about the fascist tendency to seize on only the barest, most surface level of aesthetics of whatever thing they're into, whether it's Fight Club or The Boys or American Psycho or Reservoir Dogs or any other number of books and media. And then I remembered that fascism is an almost entirely aesthetic movement. When I say this, what I specifically mean is not that they are missing the point or that they're only skimming the surface of whatever media it is they're consuming. It's that to the fascist, there is no such thing as a deeper meaning of a piece of media or a work of art. There is only the aesthetic. There's nothing more to the thing than the aesthetic. I mean, think about the things that fascist Star Wars fanboys get upset about. It's always about the lightsaber fights not being realistic, or this character learning their powers at whatever rate not being realistic, or it's always about realism. And realism here is best defined as this fails to justify the aesthetic that I like, and I don't like that. And this is why they latch on to villains in media that is explicitly about proving how wrong the fascist villain is. It doesn't matter if the character is ultimately proven wrong, so long as they get to look cool while doing fascist things. And when you think about this, it really casts the whole don't think about it that hard, it's not that deep type of argument about any piece of media in a kind of sinister light. I'm not saying that everyone who says that is an explicit dyed-in-the-wool fascist, but yeah, at the end of the day, that is a fascist talking point. Or at least, it's one they really like. Anyway, just some food for thought, and have a nice day.
So if you're just showing up, I did a video last night about how fascism is an almost entirely aesthetic movement, and that this is why they seem to latch on to only the barest, surface level read of whatever media they're into. It's because their ideology sees aesthetic as the only thing that exists in a piece of media. They do not believe in deeper meanings. But this morning, as I was thinking about this further, I remembered that basically this is why, or at least one of the reasons why, they object so strongly to any depiction of diversity in any sort of media that they are into, whether it's a real world or whether it's, portrayals of history or any type of fantasy story altogether. It's that the appearance of people who don't look like them violate their desired aesthetic, and they cannot countenance that. One more time, just for emphasis. To the aesthetic-obsessed fascist, the appearance of any type of person who doesn't look like them and who doesn't fit with their desired aesthetic is deeply dissonant, and they absolutely hate it. And this, of course, is not distinct from their racism, by the way. It's a part of it. And knowing this, of course, means you now have a great way to upset them. So, take that as you like, and have a nice day.
I feel like people don't understand what is meant by the phrase all art is political. I think they tend to assume that we're saying all art is propaganda or all art is commentary, and that's not true. I think a huge part of this misunderstanding is that a lot of people don't fully understand what politics is. People think politics is restricted to taxes and the border and voting, and while that's a part of politics, the reality is that everything about the way you interact with the world is political, because, as Aristotle said, man is the political animal. Politics is about how we arrange ourselves in the world around us, how we interact with each other, and how we distribute power and resources, and that touches every aspect of your life. Therefore, everything you can think of is political, but of course, art is political because art is a means through which an artist has a dialogue with a consumer, and that is, of course, a means of humans communicating, which must therefore be political. And in fact, the very act of trying to designate something as not political, trying to say this isn't political, that also is a political act. Ultimately, I think the reason people have such a knee-jerk reaction to the statement all art is political is because of the growing anti-intellectual movement, especially in the West. A movement fostered by those in power whose goal is to restrict what we think of as political because it is within the realm of politics that we talk about change. The more things you think are not political, the more things that you will think are static, individualistic, and just the way things are. And the more you can accept that humanity has a static, unchanging nature, the less likely you are to fight back against your own oppression and the oppression of others. Politics is not a scary word, and political discussions are not just for the ivory tower elite. Everyone can do politics because everyone is already doing politics. You're always doing politics. That's the only thing you ever do.
Hey, good morning, guys. So I just saw that the Trump administration plans to get rid of the National Endowment for the Arts, that agency. So basically, they don't want, it comes down to this, right? They do not, how they see it, right, is that people who are into the arts, professors, colleges, people who are educated, learned, scholars, scientists, thinkers of that kind of sort, right? They will not be right wingers. They will not be MAGA. They will always resist. They will always resist the ideology of this present administration. Okay, it's about getting rid of the source of their opposition as well too. Basically, drying up the spring that breeds personalities and people in the future that will oppose their ideology. So when you hear they talk about getting rid of they're going to have to act blue in the Democrats. That's just the present, getting rid of the present opposition. But when they talk about it going after National Endowment of Arts and the African American Museum and stuff, yeah, it's anti-black too, but it's about getting rid of the source of their opposition. You know what I'm saying? It's about that. It's about getting rid of the source or the future springboard of their opposition. That's what it comes down to. Nothing else but that. So in other words, they are going after to coin a phrase, the intellectual oppositional potentiality of MAGA. It's like they're acting with this kind of speed and there's this kind of desperation and just top to bottom kind of scarification. Like when they tear up an asphalt road with this big grinding wheels, these big grinding graphite wheels, granite wheels. This is what they're doing to the tarmac of what has become American society, American enlightened society, American, world class society. and they're scarifying and breaking it down so that only something rather caveman-like survives. Something rather coarse, rather simplistic, and frankly fucking backward, reactionary, schizophrenic, violent survives. And they will boldly go forth into the world and of course in this country and present that frankly devolved MAGA, which is a devolved view of society as if it's excellence, as if it's the pinnacle of human evolution. Again, it's propagating this kind of mediocre, this kind of devolved, this kind of subpar, and proudly subpar kind of fuckery. White mediocrity at the end of the day as excellence. They are impugning their mediocrity as if they're the pinnacle of everything. They are the standard to be ascribed to. With no, like, they act like nobody else exists, nobody else matters, no other point of view matters. The world doesn't fucking matter. So they're going after the future generations the future generations, people who ain't even born yet. They're going after the influences that might make the future generations oppose their ideology. This is what they're doing. This is why they're going after universities the way they are, going after museums, going after institutions like the National Endowment for the Arts and things like that that have just always been nonpartisan. We in for it, man. You fuckers voted for that shit. Y'all voted for that shit. Y'all voted for that shit. Y'all were too fucking myopic, wanting to strike a blow against trans, wanting to strike a blow against woke, and that's all you fucking saw. Wanted to strike a blow against these dark skinned and brown skinned people who have funny accents, who speak different language, who dare to speak another language besides English around you. You wanted to fucking fuck them up. I'll never forgive y'all for this shit. OP Reddit insert. They are diligently attacking the mind trust, the future mind trust of this nation. And they think they have some right to do so. They think they're entitled to do so. So yeah, in Trump's America, many museums will look pretty hollowed out. Even the arts museums are going to fall under attack. Anything that presents like it may oppose MAGA is going to go under attack. So they only want to see bland shit in museums. They want to see a fantasy history in museums and in institutions. Okay, America is going to be a very bland and uninteresting place. Thank you, you white supremacists, you fucking racist assholes. Good fucking morning.
Wait for it. I mean, how come everybody I know of that went to college is a Biden supporter?
Yeah.
And I don't understand how everybody is a Biden supporter if you just went to college. So what are they teaching in this college? Are they teaching anything?
Stuff like inclusivity and respecting other people, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, woke.
Yeah, wokeness, yeah.
The American president would not be doing what Joe Biden's doing. So that's proof that he's not our president.
It's just interesting because when I talk to liberals, they say the same exact thing about Donald Trump.
Because they have a lower IQ.
You think so?
I'll tell you right now why Doug Ford wants to underfund the arts. Do you know where I learned how to speak? In the 4 years of drama that I took in my public education. I would not be able to do what I do now as a teacher or as an influencer without the skills that I gained doing plays in my high school. We fundamentally spent whole semesters building stages and props and working together and memorizing lines, and that is valuable stuff. I tell all my students who say they want to be a lawyer, you better be in drama. If you want to be a lawyer, you better be in drama. If you want to be in any communication job, you better be in drama. You want to be dexterous? Go into music. You want to be a doctor? You better be in music. These are valuable, valuable things, and we are leaving them at the wayside.
Do you want to know what's sad? That even though conservatives have a majority of political power right now in all the institutions, the one thing they will never have control over is the direction of culture. And the reason being is that they despise art. And art is how most of our culture is formulated, through the media we consume. They think that art and theater are all things related to wokeness or whatever the fuck that means. And because of that, they will never be able to control what is popular in the culture, only politics.
This is what I've been trying to warn you about, MAGA. You guys are going to wish for the days of the tolerant left back soon. This is a very dangerous situation developing because all of you have accepted this stereotypical liberal and leftist as these do-nothing weenies living in their mom's basement, which is not supported by reality or history. This is going to start looking like the 70s again pretty quick with groups like the Weather Underground, for example, who blew up federal buildings, the Red Faction in Italy, who kidnapping a few leaders. Because what's happening is that you're getting an overproduction of elites, is what scholars call it. Basically, you're getting all of these super overeducated people who are super politically engaged in denying them institutional access. Every single time that happens, it leads to real radicalization. Like the real leftists of your nightmares, which I don't know why you guys forgot about them. But it seems that you want them back. You'd kind of tamed them all, right? But all of this, the attacks on higher ed specifically, the attack on the institutions that these kids would otherwise be in and leading, they're now going to work to undermine. And I don't know how violent that can get, but history shows us it can go all the way to the Bolshevik Revolution. Okay? So I just go easy if I were y'all. Yeah, this is a great comment. Really sums it up. I actually just bought the Hunger Games movies again. It's that kind of vibe, but this is absolutely right. It's not hard to keep the so-called knowledge class at bay. You just have to give them institutional access with robust colleges, research institutions, books, documentaries, and history shows every single time that's denied. And you just have this super overeducated class of people. It's real easy to radicalize them. Reason being, we're already aware of all the theories, all the history. We know that at their core, a lot of revolutionary movements make sense. We've just made a very conscious decision to abide by the social contract. MAGA, you did not. You did not know that there was another option. You're literally just flying along whichever way the fucking breeze shifts. We are not. It's real easy for us to turn that switch and start talking about how the French did in 1848, 1798, how the Bolsheviks do it, how the People's Revolution in China, on and on. Whereas y'all don't have any of that knowledge. You just think colleges are little indoctrination centers instead of realizing now we have the knowledge of man at our disposal to choose from. And we know how to provoke change better than y'all do. When we really decide to, the left always, always comes through and at least stirs some shit up, even if they don't end up winning. I can understand how overeducated might come across as a pejorative, but it has a specific meaning in this case, meaning anyone who received higher education or post-secondary and then for whatever reason was shut out of the institution in which they received their education, but more importantly, shut out of the entire academic institution in which they obviously intended to work and pursue careers. Thus, they are overeducated for whatever role in society they're currently occupying, myself included. And I have a very good job, don't get me wrong, and I like my job. And my education has helped me in that job, but I'm still overeducated for the role I possess. Anyone who follows me knows I should probably be working like academically in history, but I was not able to do that. And this isn't new. This has been going on for a while, but this specifically is going to create an entire class of people who are overeducated, from unemployed all the way up to lucrative positions. So that's all I mean by overeducated, not like you went and got too much education. No, there's no such thing.